My name is Luz Zambrano. I am original from Colombia. I live in East Boston for the last 27 years.
My name is Gloribel Rivas. I am originally from El Salvador, but I grew up in East Boston. Came to East Boston when I was 5 years old. This is the home that I've known ever since.
Hi everyone, my name is Gabriela. I live in East Boston and I've grown up here and been here all my life.
I'm Nancy Slamet and I'm originally from Canada. I always say that proudly. And I moved to the Boston area about 10 years ago. I live in Winthrop, but I currently work at the East Boston Neighborhood Health Center.
My name is Paola. I grew up in East Boston, but my family's Colombian.
My name is Gautier, and so I currently live in East Boston, but I've been in the Boston area for 13 years.
My name is Leah Gregory, and now live in East Boston. I have worked here for 9 years.
I have two organizations that I'm part of. I'm blessed that I am the co-founder of both. The first one is the Center to Support Immigrant Organizing. The other organization is here where I live in East Boston. It's called the Center for Cooperative Development and Solidarity. And I'm also the co-founder and I'm the general coordinator right now.
And I am currently working as the chief of staff to State Rep Adrian Madero of East Boston.
I am currently one of the co-directors of the communications department at City Life Vida Urbana, Housing Justice nonprofit, and also help co-supervise a rent relief program at Maverick Landing Community Services.
As the coordinator of community initiatives. And I love East Boston. It's such a vibrant community, and I'm so glad to be able to spend most of my days there.
And right now I'm a freshman at Tufts and I'm majoring in English and Film and Media Studies.
So I am a pastor of Livingstone's Church here in East Boston. I'm a CrossFit coach at East Fit. I'm a lawyer by training, so I still do some legal stuff on the side, specifically working with small business owners and entrepreneurs. That's my big area of interest and focus.
And I work as a coordinator at the Harborside, which is an adult education program in East Boston.
Helping the immigrant community, in particular new immigrants, to be able to actually own their own business. But we call it co-ops because cooperative is more than business, it's also social and it's political.
So I assist in that by ensuring that we are evaluating and assessing all of the proposals related to mental health, substance use, and recovery. That all of the issues that he cares about and that our community care about are gaining momentum and moving towards a place where we can make them a reality.
Focusing in on the Latino community around East Boston and the North Shore area, just because there's so many people who are undocumented, who were left out of governmental financial assistance, and those very people were working in the service industry, so they were out of work for months. So there was just like so much desperation and despair and anxiety from people not knowing how they were going to pay their rent, for people worrying about their growing debt in regards to rent.
The focus of the role is really on food access and sustainable food systems. So I manage the East Boston Farmers Market, which I'm pleased to say is very much a community hub, not just a place where community members can access the highest quality, freshest, healthiest food available.
So I think like working at Maverick and like learning and like understanding the intersection of like media and like organizing and like working with your community and how like those things go together. And I think like a big thing for me, like especially these last 2 years at Maverick, was just like learning how like media can be a way to give people access to a lot of the information that we have.
For me, so like I've always really been interested in the intersections between faith, justice, and kind of community organizing and how those things all work together. And so I've had a lot of interesting opportunities to do those things in almost silos, so in separate places. So I was a lawyer for a while here in the city, working with small business owners and entrepreneurs, and specifically like women and Black and Brown business owners, so like really in the communities.
We run an adult ed program, like I said, in the afternoon and the evenings. We work directly with the East Boston community, as well as surrounding communities like Chelsea, Lynn, Revere.
What we are trying to replicate here is what we know it worked for us. where it's not something that is new, totally new, that we are kind of innovating or something. Cooperativism existed all the life. It's just the natives, that's how they survive, being together and really being community and trying to help each other.
Learning about history and learning stories of people who went through similar things that I did or that my community did in years past, I was able to really see a blueprint of how change can happen and how I could deal with issues by working with my community.
City Life created and still has a housing hotline in which we were, responding to people's phone calls and just helping them the best we could by reminding them that they have tenant rights and, that if they have a choice between rent and food, to choose food, while there were existing like eviction moratoriums on the statewide level that was one of the strongest in the country.
When there was the first Gulf War, I took part in my first protests and as a student. And that's when I really thought, I want to dedicate my life to promoting peace. And that really is my greatest passion. And I really believe that healing is an integral part of peace building. Just telling people to, drop their arms is the first step, but going deeper into what are the causes of violence, both at the local and even international levels, I think is very important.
And I started working with the kids' summer program. And so my mom has a daycare. So I've been around kids my entire life. Like I'm used to this, like even like with events, which like I don't think I had a lot of like experience with prior to. But like hosting events and like creating those connections and those collaborations and like just being able to work with other people in the community and like learning from each other.
And so now through being a pastor and also being a CrossFit coach really allows me to be at the intersection of those spaces and really in the community. So I think that, but it was these opportunities that were kind of on their own. And I was like, what does it look like to just throw all these together?
I've always wanted to be a teacher. You can ask my siblings, I made them all be my students growing up. So teaching has always been a passion of mine.
Just to believe in yourself, believe that you know what you're doing, be proud of who you are, because I think that's part of, a lot of times is that, especially for young women, they start feeling like maybe I'm not, good enough. And I think we all are good enough and more than that.
When I was in college, I volunteered for City Life Vida Urbana. I worked on their staff and I really became interested in dealing with gentrification and displacement because I saw all of the harm and hurt that was coming as a result of that to my friends, my neighbors, and everybody in my community.
And I'm no longer just focused on the Latino community. Now I have to really kind of like have my eyes and ears and heart open to the different stories occurring throughout the different geographic areas that City Life is supporting.
Protective measures for people who are in imminent danger. Absolutely. People need to have those supports. But I decided that my focus really was going to shift to addressing the roots of violence and back to the Native tradition. In fact, one of the main purposes of peace circles is restorative justice, is bringing healing when there is harm, not punishment, not blame.
I think like Eastie is like, and like just like I grew up there, lived there, like lived on the same street my entire life. So it's very formative to who I am and like the way I see life. So I think like just because of that, like I never want to not be a part of the community that's like shaped who I am, and like I want to continue being shaped by East Boston and like the people and the interactions that I have.
But I think that there's something so beautiful that women, that Latinas bring to the table. We care about community, right? Like you see the matriarchs in our Latina communities, and this I learned from like my mom, my grandmothers, like, and just seeing the way that they were the organizers in their communities, right? Like they were the ones rallying everybody together around common interests and common cause, and there was always food involved,
I think that I've always wanted to work with immigrants. My grandparents as well were immigrants from the war to where they migrated to in Europe. My parents went through just moving to a different country, as well as seeing language be a barrier for some, and I think that has just evolved.
A very difficult task because we're working mainly with immigrants, new immigrants, not English speaking, a lot of times with immigration issues, and a lot of them, maybe 80%, with a lot of mental and emotional issues. So to try to form cooperatives and make them successful, it requires tons of work.
You know, being an immigrant is an identity that's really important to me. And I wanted to assist, and so I worked as a paralegal, working on various kinds of immigration cases.
We center the voices of everyone who's been directly impacted by the housing crisis, but specifically Black women. And as someone who is Latina and not a Black woman, you know, it's been really important for me to really reanalyze how I am wording content, what type of pictures I'm choosing to represent the organization.
You know, women's empowerment is about the nurturing, soft, life-giving, you know, forces that we see in the world, and also the need to sometimes be firm and clear about when we're going astray, you know.
Oh my God, I am in a room full of women, of Latina women, like women of like all ages. Like it was like a generational conversation. Like I was like, wow, this is so beautiful and this is so powerful.
You have to be pretty confident in what you're doing and know kind of all the possibilities so that you're ready to defend yourself if you need to.
And my mom had, maybe because she was also part of this cooperative, she also had that kind of sense of how things work in the world and how inequalities, especially for women, happen. And she put that seed in myself, like, you know, you can do whatever you want and you're going to find all these obstacles and all these things, but you have to continue moving forward. You cannot let people just let you down.
For me, it's really important to seek out people who understand and don't need to be explained about how I feel. And I've been able to find folks here at the State House who are people of color or who are really good allies who just get what it's like to be in the building as one of the few Latinas and one of the few women of color. Really important to continue to remind ourselves of the value that we bring with our perspectives. And, you know, it can be really tiring sometimes when folks kind of try to invalidate those experiences and that knowledge that we've accumulated by being on the ground and learning from our communities. But you know, I think it's important to keep going so that we can open up these spaces to more and more folks who look like us.
Always kind of been like my inspiration to remind myself that it's never too late to try something new. It's never too late to polish X, Y, and Z skill. So definitely my madre is up there.
She has worked so hard all her life, and she gives me a hard time for working like 60, 70 hours a week, but it's only because of how I've seen her work.
Most women coming to United States as immigrants are the ones who are leading the change. Anywhere you go, anywhere you see small organizations, big organizations, initiatives in the neighborhood, if you go to the meetings, you always see women.
I think about collective power and like communal power.
Wait, this is the United States of America and women were only able to vote in the 1900s. Like, it's not like it was something that was just given, you know, it was something that was fought for. And I think that the struggle continues.
One word that comes to mind is like listening and like creating a space for one another where we can listen to each other.
Is, you know, resilience, resistance, feminist power.
It's that boldness and that self-confidence in a world that tells you that your background is not enough and that it's not valuable that has always inspired me to really take pride in my working class identity and my identity as an immigrant and my identity as a Latina.